Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Hi. Don't adjust your set. It really is Doug Benton filling in this week for B.J. Williams. Welcome to Read About It. Our guests tonight include Harvey Stanbrough, Joyce McCauley Johnson, Susie Beasley. Betty Price will be here later on. We'll have Kids Corner with Shelley Ziegler Hill, and I'll be chatting with my old pal Clyde Martin. First up, though, Harvey Stanbrough.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, B.J. Williams.
Hi. Harvey Stanbrough is a full-time freelance editor, writer, and poet. His work has been nominated for a Pulitzer Prize in 1999 and a Frankfurt Award in the year 2000. He regularly speaks to writers' conferences, and BJ had a few minutes to talk with him at the Oklahoma Writers Federation Conference last May. Here's what they had to say.
I'm going to ask, really, how should people approach poetry? Should they approach it differently from prose?
Well, how they approach it is, I don't know what they're wanting to get out of it. If they're just wanting to read it for something enjoyable, that's fine. In that case, they might approach it the same way they approach prose. They're not going to probably get quite the same experience out of it as they would with prose.
But it's I guess for somebody who didn't major in English in college but enjoys good reading, that it really, they shouldn't be intimidated by it, I guess is what I'm saying.
No,
it doesn't require a college degree to enjoy good poetry.
No, and that's something I'm glad you brought up, because for probably a 20-year period, our college professors have taught us that we can't understand poetry. And we can. There's me and there are a lot of other folks now who are writing poetry that's accessible on the surface as it should be. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to work any harder to read a good poem and enjoy it and understand it than you should to read a novel and understand it.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I appreciate about poetry, and this is without the English degree, is the way, I guess, each word, you can read it and enjoy the way the words fit together and the rhythm of it. But when you sit and study it a little bit more, then each word starts echoing, I think, and bringing in all sorts of associations and increasing the depth of it. And I think that's the thing that some people get hooked on without realizing it.
It is, and it is subliminal. It's I write blank verse, for example, because I like the freedom of the unrhymed lines, but I also enjoy the underlying rhythms of iambic pentameter. It tends to draw the reader through the poem. Mm-hmm. And Robert Frost even said that without music there is no poetry. Mm-hmm. So you need to use the music that's inherent in the language by juxtaposing the words and even juxtaposing the lines to make them flow well. Everything a good poet does on paper, whether it be a period or a comma or using under instead of beneath, is done to achieve a particular effect in the reader, and that's as it should be.
Well, I think just looking at it, some poetry only takes up part of a page, and so it's pretty apparent to me that a great deal of thought went into each. You've got just a small amount of time to get across something that maybe is very important. So each word, and as you said, each comma and period mean a great deal, and obviously you have to really sort of sweat blood over a lot of it to get it right. Sometimes. Well, in something like The Truth Lies Here, which is quite short, what sort of jogged you to do that particular poem?
I actually just wanted to play with irony a little bit. Even in the phrase, the truth lies here, it mentions truth in there and it mentions lies, and it says, for example, de Bergerac was lying when, I guess sort of by omission, when he didn't tell the ladies who were being wooed by these other men that they were using his words. But by the same token, are you going to beat him for lying in that way? You know, and that's what I was trying to do with that. I was just playing with the concept of lie and true against each other. And
yeah, I liked your the way you talked about it being a circle. as well. I thought that was really quite fascinating.
Yes, in an unobtrusive circle. It doesn't interfere or impede anything else you're doing. It just closes back in on itself. Part of what I was trying to say for myself there, not necessarily for anyone else to understand, but just for myself, was that what's true to one person isn't necessarily true to the other. And perception is not the same thing as truth. Perception is what causes us all to be politically correct. We don't want to perceive that we might hurt someone's feelings. On the other hand, telling the truth often will hurt someone's feelings, but we've gotten away from the notion of self-reliance and that sticks and stones, etc.
Yeah. Well, I suspect perhaps part of it is that we remember getting hurt by those words when we were. But certainly that's part of what gets brought up, I think, in just that little small thing. I mean, we've talked for, 4 or 5 minutes about half a page. And that's one of the things that really intrigues me about poetry. Besides the fact that I think people, because we're people, we like to play with words and with rhythm. And find out, well, what would happen if these two got put together. And self-portrait is also something that I found interesting. You lead us along a path, and then you've got a little twist there at the end, which I found kind of intriguing.
Yeah, self-portrait was very much a comparison of my father and myself. A lot of poets write personal things to get rid of it, and usually do it in the third person, which I usually do, but this one was in the first person because it was just too close. But it has a great deal to do with a more of a spiritual than a physical likeness between myself and my father. I always felt like my father, who died several years ago, I always felt like my father needed my help, but he would never ask me for it. And had he passed that note, you know, across the desk between my desk and his, I would have helped him cheat a little bit to make it a little easier for him. But his pride, or some people would say false pride, wouldn't let him do that. He couldn't ask for help, and so I didn't get the help I needed from him either. So it's
a two-way street.
And in the mirror, there are some physical aspects. In the mirror, I rub my hand over his cheek and so on and so forth. So that's basically all there is to that.
Well, I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed the images that you created in this as much as anything. And it just kind of drew me on. I was trying to find out what were you saying about the self-portrait.
Nice to know you were unable to escape.
Well, I think that's the sign of a good writer, when you get us caught.
That's right.
And we can't get out.
I tell all my classes that's exactly what you have to do as a writer. Only a fool would stop someone from reading their work. If you stop them from reading their work, that might be the one time they stop and don't come back. So.
Yeah. Once you're stopped, you've got other options.
That's right.
Where can people find your books?
Right now, I have enough of a dedicated audience that I sell to that audience. So if folks write directly to me at my email address, then they can contact me there, and I can hook them up with my books.
Okay, and we've got your email address up on the screen, so they'll be able to contact you and find out about The Shape of Things and your other books. And do you have some things other than The Shape of Things? Have you put together another book after that?
I have no, but we're coming out with some reprints, and I'm putting together another collection as well. I'm putting together a collection called Beyond the Masks, which I hope will be out in the next 6 or 8 months. And it's, very briefly, it's going to deal with the fact that we have a lot of preconceptions as adults that we didn't have when we were children. So we would look at the trunk of a tree, for example, and we'd know as a child that it wasn't just brown. Now we think it's just brown. We don't look beyond these preconceptions and see what's really there anymore, much less use our imaginations to make things up. So that's what that's going to be about.
Great.
But they'll be able to get that. They can also get intimations of the shapes of things. They can get lessons for barren population, and they can get residua.
I want to thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Our thanks to Harvey and BJ. Coming up next, Susie Beasley chats with Joyce Macaulay Johnson. Ladies, the floor is yours.
Joyce, tell us about the book Sitting in the Front Pew by Barry, Ebony, Satin Brown.
Perry.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, Joyce, tell us about the book Sitting in the Front Pew by Barry, Ebony, Satin Brown.
Perry. It's an interesting book. It starts out where the father raises his 4 daughters
After the wife passes away.
after his wife passes away, and he suddenly dies. And he leaves a will, leaving money to each of his 4 daughters and another lady that no one seems to know anything about.
So that kind of sets the stage, the father passing away and the daughters coming in to make arrangements and all.
Yeah.
So kind of give us some background into the
And it
characters.
causes bad blood when the girls finally find out that this other lady is their sister, their older sister. And he kept her a secret from them because she was born out of wedlock. And he was always told by his mother not to bring an illegitimate child home.
Right.
But he took care of this daughter.
And he left her in the will, left names.
Yeah, he left her in the will, and she said that she had seen her father for years, and they knew nothing about him doing this.
So the 4 daughters that are left to bury the father and then realize they have another sister, and the conflicts explode. The characters, kind of give us some insight about the characters.
Well, the 4 sisters, there's 2 sisters that cause problems, and their understanding is very bad. And then the 2 older sisters are the ones that hold the family together.
Kind of the peacemakers. But the term "sitting in the front pew," give us some essence of that.
Sitting in the front pew was about the sisters not wanting to go to the funeral and sit on the front pew with the sister that no one knew anything about.
Right.
Because they didn't feel like she had a right to sit on the front pew with them.
That's right, because she wasn't really a legitimate part of the family.
That's right.
Barry Brown has written another book also.
Yes.
I believe it's
Shirt Off His Back.
And this is a pretty fast-moving fiction book.
Yes.
The characters are African American, but people of other ethnicity can read the book and still enjoy it.
Yes, and I think they would enjoy it.
Because they can see the characters and everything. Well, we really certainly appreciate you coming and sharing with us, Joyce. Perry Ebony Satin Brown's Sitting in the Front Pew. This book is brand new and it's available at your local library and perhaps your local bookstore. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Joyce.
Bye-bye.
If you spend 15 minutes a day reading to a child, you're doing more than reading. You're building a bond that lasts a lifetime. Hi, I'm Penny McCaleb, Chairman of your Metropolitan Library Commission, and I urge you to read to your children. Not only will they learn to love reading, they will also become better students. Our children's librarians will be happy to help you select just the right book. The next time your child hands you a book, take the time to read. You'll both be glad you did.
Next, we have Evelyn Davis of the Downtown Library staff, and she'll be talking to you about the book, The Unfinished Bombing.
Evelyn, give us a little background material on The Unfinished Bombing, Oklahoma City in American Memory by Edward Linenthal.
He is well qualified to write on this subject. He is professor of religion and American culture at the University of Wisconsin. And a couple of his back issues of American culture involving sacred ground. This seems to be his specialty. He's written about sacred ground in American battlefields.
Right.
And he has written about the making of the Holocaust Museum. So he brings a wealth of background to this particular subject in Oklahoma City.
And so, kind of give me an idea about the nature of his interviews and his research. You mentioned the Sacred Ground and the Holocaust Museum and all that.
Well, let me start by saying that on reading the long list of people he thanked for their help, I recognized half of them. His research was incredibly extensive. He interviewed everyone from rescue teams to police to victims to survivors.
And so he really gave an overall coverage of the process in which the Oklahomans really, what they went through and how they triumphed through the tragedy of the of the Oklahoma City bombing to come to the final memorial.
And it is interesting that he didn't focus simply on the terrible stories of people surviving or dying. He went through the entire process of coming to grips with grief, acceptance, and interestingly, he went into great detail in the democratic process of setting up the memorial.
How there was input from everyone.
Yes, he was very scrupulous in documenting the process by which they sought input from first the families and survivors and moved from that.
So you attended this lecture with Edward Linenthal at the United Methodist Church, I believe, First Methodist
That
Church.
is correct, and I got him to sign a copy of the book that you're holding, which we will hold in our Oklahoma collection in the France room and transfer to the new downtown library. We're delighted to have it.
So this is a really unique book.
Absolutely, and because it is the first book written by an outsider, not a native Oakley, it brings a whole new authoritative perspective.
Well, Evelyn, we really appreciate you coming and sharing with us The Unfinished Bombing, Oklahoma City in American Memory by Edward Linenthal. And this book will be available in our library and Library Learning Center and perhaps your local bookstore. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you.
My thanks to Susie and Evelyn. Next, let's change direction and go to Kids Corner with Shelley Ziegler-Hill discussing the book Dreamland.
We have a great young adult book today. It's called Dreamland. It's by Dessen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Shelley, you brought it. Tell me about it.
It is a young adult book, so it is kind of a deeper theme than a juvenile fiction book. It's called Dreamland, but it's actually that's kind of a satire of sorts of Dreamland. It's about a young girl. I think she's about 13 or 14, and it's about how a person can get into a situation that they don't anticipate. Caitlin is the main character, and she starts dating this boy who's just fabulous. And in high school, you think, oh, he's just everything. It's wonderful. And he starts abusing her physically.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because a lot of us, we can't understand how women or men can stay in a situation like that. But when you see how it unfolds, you can kind of understand her position. She has a lot of family trouble. Her sister has ran off and left the family, and her parents aren't communicating very well. And
so she's looking for someone that she can lean on and have a grown-up relationship at that age. And maybe this person isn't all that healthy for her.
And she doesn't realize this because this is the only person she feels that she can depend on. And I think this is a very therapeutic book because I think a lot of teens can find themselves in this situation and not know where to turn or think they're the only one. And so this book would be wonderful to read to see how you got yourself in that situation, how you should get yourself out of unhealthy.
How this character dealt with it to move out of that.
Exactly. Wow. And she does get out of the situation.
I'm so glad to hear that.
But it does take a long time, and I think it's good for girls in high school to read because it just the whole setting is in a high school setting and her friends, and she starts alienating herself from her friends, and she starts using drugs and because of the boyfriend, and
she has a lot of issues going on that kids are dealing with right now.
Exactly, and I think a lot of teens think they're the only one, and they think, how do I get out of this? So this is I thought was wonderful. It is a dark theme. It is.
But if you have thoughtful teens who are involved in a lot of different activities that, may be seeing some of this in their peer group, this would be a good book for them to read.
Oh, exactly. I think because in Caitlin's situation, no one else sees the signs of what's happening to her.
It's called Dreamland, and it's by Dessen, and you should find it at your local bookstore or at your favorite library.
Thanks, ladies. Now let's have a quick run-through of the New York Times bestseller list. Beginning with fiction, in number 10 place is Tricky Business by Dave Barry. No One to Trust by Iris Johansson. War of Honor by David Weber. The New Jedi Order, Destiny's Way by Walter John Williams. Number 6 is Red Rabbit by Tom Clancy. The Murder Book by Jonathan Kellerman. Blessings by Anna Quinlan. Knights in Rodante by Nicholas Sparks. Number 2 is From a Buick 8 by Stephen King. And number 1 is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. Nonfiction. Number 10, The Blank Slate by Steven Pinker. Blue Latitudes by Tony Horwitz. Nothing is Impossible by Christopher Reeve. Slander by Ann Coulter. Sandy Koufax by Jane Levy. Number 5 is Abraham by Bruce Feiler. Let Freedom Ring by Sean Hannity. Longitudes and Attitudes by Thomas L. Friedman. Let's Roll by Lisa Beamer. And number 1 is Leadership by Rudy Giuliani. The Children's List, sometimes called the Harry Potter List. Number 10 is the all-new Captain Underpants Extra Crunchy Book of Fun number 2 by Dave Pilkey. 9, Meet Kaya by Janet Shaw. 8, Good Morning Gorillas, Mary Pope Osborne. Junie B., First Grader at Last by Barbara Park. Number 6, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Number 5, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets by J.K. Rowling. Number 3 is Tuck Everlasting. Then Thanksgiving on Thursday by Mary Pope Osborne. And number 1, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. Coming up next, a chat with my friend Clyde Martin.
Thank you, BJ. I'm here with Doug Benton. And Doug, you have The Turn of a Screw by Henry James.
Yes,
What's
indeed.
This for? Halloween?
Halloween. When we get into fall, first day of fall, it's Halloween. It's
That's right.
The whole fall season is Halloween. I'm a Ray Bradbury kind of guy when it comes to Halloween, the October country. Yeah, and for me, Halloween is ghost stories.
Oh, yes.
I mean, there are all kinds of monster stories, and they're okay, but it's ghosts. From Halloween to Christmas is ghost season for me, and I think James' short novel, The Turn of the Screw, is probably the best ghost story in English. And the library has, of course, the book and a couple of different film versions of The Turn of the Screw. So I brought those along too.
And the one of them I know is the MGM version, isn't it? With
Deborah Carr.
Deborah Carr.
And it's called The Innocents. And the screenplay is by William Archibald, and who had written I Confess for Alfred Hitchcock and other things as well, and Truman Capote.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes, Capote was the co-screenwriter on this. And basically what the story is, for folks who don't know it, we have a distant, kind of cold uncle for two young children, a boy or a girl. And he really doesn't want to have anything to do with them, but he wants to raise them properly. So he hires a governess. And the governess goes to the country to take care of the children, Flora and Miles. And at first, the relationship with the children is a little odd, a little distant. And she thinks it's because she's new and they don't know her. And as she gets to know them more and more, she's attracted to them, she's drawn to them. But she finds out from the housekeeper at the house that the former governess and groundskeeper had an affair, and that they may have done something to somehow corrupt these children. James is very oblique. He doesn't really tell you what this governess and this groundskeeper may have done. And the new governess begins to think that the ghosts of these former employees are haunting the children and still trying to corrupt them from beyond the grave. And what you never really can tell from James or from the films is if it is a ghost story or if we're dealing with a severely psychologically damaged young woman and a repressed young woman.
Depends on how the role is played.
Exactly. Deborah Carr was in the first version, and an English actress named Jodie May is in the second. And they're both very, very good. The Innocents is shot in black and white. The newer version is in color. And as I say, they're both very well done, and they're both very chilling, especially scenes that take place down at the lake when we think maybe we're seeing the ghost of the governess from across the water. It's a very chilling, not the kind of story that jumps out and screams boo at you. There are no slashers, no teenagers get killed in this one, but it's a very quiet and a very effective ghost story.
Well, there are other versions too. Ingrid Bergman did a TV version.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I suppose it must be lost because it's never been shown again that I know of. And then, of course, there's an opera by Benjamin Britten.
Exactly, yes. There is. I had forgotten about that,
I played that
too.
on my radio show about 3 weeks ago. Thank you very, very much, Doug.
After this quick break, MJ Vandevenner will chat with Betty Price, the director of the State Arts Council.
When you read to your child for just 15 minutes a day, you're doing so much more than just reading. You're building a bond that lasts a lifetime. Hi, I'm Elisa Johnson with the Metropolitan Library Commission, and I urge you to read to your children. Not only will they learn to love to read, but they'll be a better student. Our children's librarian will help you find just the right book. The next time your child hands you a book, take the time to read. You'll both be glad you did.
Tayada is a woman that our viewers may not be familiar with, although I remember that there was a wonderful documentary made about her years ago. And tell us a little bit about her.
Well, the documentary was God's Drum, and Shawnee Britton produced that, and the Oklahoma Arts Council helped with that. And that's really how I first became acquainted with Tayada. She was Mary Tayada Thompson, born in 1895. She grew up in Tishomingo, went to an Indian boarding school, and listened to her father's Chickasaw folklore. She went to Oklahoma College for Women, where she graduated, and she started doing Chautauqua, and that led her to a 60-year career in enchanting storytelling.
Well, tell us a little bit about the author's research.
Well, Richard Green is the tribal historian for the Chickasaw Nation, and he had the family cooperation, especially Senator Helen Cole, to access Tayada's papers, her memorabilia, and then the letters and pictures between her and her husband, Dr. Clyde Fisher. Dr. Fisher was the curator of the American Museum of History in New York.
Well, how did she move through this difficult time in her life?
Well, you know, it was a time when the Dawes Act had tried to abolish tribal government and succeeded, and that was among all of the Native Americans, and so it was difficult for what they hoped to do, and that was assimilate Indian people into the American mainstream. So as Tayada became famous with the royalty in Europe and Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, she almost was like, if I might describe it like this, having a beaded moccasin in one foot in one world and a stylish pump in the other.
What a wonderful description.
She bridged the cultures.
She's referred to often as a treasure.
Yes.
And why should we treasure her?
Well, the book calls her an American treasure, but one of the things we were able to do was, because I was a big fan of hers and thought, you know, there's so many Oklahomans who achieve greatness in the arts, but we don't know about them. And so we decided to establish the Oklahoma Treasure, which is patterned after the Japanese living treasure. And when she was 92 years old in 1987, we honored her at the state capitol as the first Oklahoma Treasure.
And has she received the Governor's Arts Award?
Well, this was during Governor's Arts Awards, and Governor Henry Bellman bestowed the award. And there are now 8 other treasures, including the Indian ballerinas, Doc Tate Nevaquaya, Scott Momaday, and Charles Banks Wilson.
Well, Betty, thank you so much for being here and for introducing us to Tayada. I know it's a wonderful book.
Well, it really is. Thank you.
Our thanks to MJ and Betty. And remember that the week of October 21st at your local Metropolitan Library, we're having our second annual Food for Fines project. Bring in some prepackaged food and we'll erase your library fines for you. It's a pretty good deal. Check out our website for more information on that. It's www.metrolibrary.org. You can get all kinds of information about your local libraries, including where they are and when they're open, and cruise the catalog, have some fun with us. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again next time.